Welcome to Bluff Creek Radio. I'm Ella.
And I'm Hadley.
Today's special guest is Edith Lang.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Thanks for coming in today.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm enjoying my visit with you girls.
We're going to ask you some questions. What was it like to live back in the day?
Well, when I was born in 1921, have you figured out how many years ago that was?
No. Try.
I'll tell you. It's 92.
Cool. That's cool.
And I'm enjoying being 92.
When you lived back then, what were the costs of things like candy bars and stuff like that?
Well, ice cream cones were a nickel, and candy bars were a nickel. And then there was one store that had a lot of penny candy, so we'd always like to go there, and pick out a variety of things for 10 cents. But the salaries that grown-up people earned weren't very big then, so we didn't spend a lot of money, and it was very unusual. We didn't have places like McDonald's or anything, so most of our meals were right at home.
What jobs did you do when you got older?
What jobs did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I in the summertime I used to work for families that had small children, and I'd kind of help with taking care of the children, and so I did that when I was in high school. And then after high school, I went to college for 2 years, and then I was a teacher.
What did you study in college?
Well, what we had I went to Moorhead State, and it was called the Moorhead Teachers College then, and so we learned about teaching elementary grades, and that was what our graduation was for. Then we could teach elementary school.
Cool.
What were some memories for babysitting?
Well, let's see. You know how babies are, they're unpredictable. So I had lots of times I'd have to get up and see if they were okay at night and give them a bottle, and change their diapers, and then I'd take them for little buggy rides in the daytime, that sort of thing.
Did you have kids? Did you have a family that you kept on that you would always babysit for?
Well, when I went to college, we had a certain family that would always call my roommate and me to come and be the sitters for the evening.
What was your roommate's name?
Her name was Ann Borg. And the second year I went, it was May Hotchkiss.
When you were babysitting, what was the age of the kids you were babysitting?
Well, anywhere from babies up to probably 10 or 12.
Can you tell us how life was in the Depression?
Well, the life was very difficult from anything that we have today, because people just didn't have money to spend, and so we were very fortunate. We lived on the farm, and we had a large garden, and we had chickens, and we had animals, so we had our own milk, and that helped a lot. And some years there was a serious drought, so that the crops didn't grow very well. So we learned to live on less money.
Can you tell us about your farm?
Well, our farm was 160 acres, and we did a lot of the work with horses. So I learned how to drive horses, and that I always enjoyed that. And some of our horses we could ride bareback on, so on Sundays we'd do that sometimes. And we each had jobs to do. We helped with milking the cows and feeding the chickens and picking the eggs and all that sort of thing.
What was your favorite animal?
Oh, I always liked horses.
Ella lives on a farm too now, so
I bet you have big tractors.
No, we have a little one
Oh,
we use.
uh-huh. How large is your farm?
It's only 7 acres.
Oh, I see. Well, that's a nice size.
So, when you were in like college or and high school, what kind of like sports did you do?
Well, like I said, girls didn't perform in sports like the boys did. So we didn't, have teams, but we learned to play softball, we learned to play volleyball, and we learned to play basketball.
What was your favorite sport?
Oh, my favorite sport for watching has always been baseball. And I suppose for participating, softball.
Do you was there a specific thing that you would like to do in your free time?
In my free time, I always liked to read. My dad loved reading, and he read to us when we were little, and then when we got old enough to read ourselves, we read a lot. And so that was always one of my pleasures.
What were your favorite things to read?
Well, when I was a child, let's see. I don't even remember the names. As I remember reading the book Heidi, but I just can't remember the names of all of the books I used to read.
What kind of genre did you used to read?
What kind of what?
Genre.
I'm afraid I didn't get your question.
What kind of genre did you used to read? Did you like what types of books did you like?
Oh, what types of books? Well, I liked stories about children, when I was little, and when I grew up, I read novels, and I like historical novels, and nature books. I like that, and I like a lot of books about Native Americans.
What fascinates you about Native Americans?
Pardon?
What fascinates you about Native Americans?
Well, I thought they were amazing people, and I just was very impressed with how they lived on nature and how nature seemed to be important to them, and how resourceful they were at making use of all of the natural products.
Did you ever teach your students about Native Americans?
Yes, when I was a third grade teacher was when we had a unit on Native Americans and studied different clans and different groups. And then, since we lived in Minnesota and were close to the Dakotas, we made teepees out of furniture plastic. And everybody enjoyed decorating them with their native designs before they put them on the dowels and made them look like teepees.
That's cool. Thank you, Edith, for coming in today.
Well, I'm so happy to be here.
Today's radio podcast was brought to you by Bluff Creek Elementary and Eastern Carver County Schools.